talk about the VOD and the silver screen. Kevin and Tom and Joe know all there is to know, from masterpieces to deep fried tacos. And if the movie sucks, you might hear them say, there's no telling where the guys will take you. Get ready for a spoiler. Won't say it twice, cause we already warned you. Better watch out, it's gonna ruin the plot. Real spoilers. Real spoilers. Real spoilers.
Broadcasting from the lush but not lavish studios, but not really, located in the O'Keefe Institute for Advanced Film Snarkitude. This is Real Spoilers, episode 838, Snow White, but
That's
not Seven Dwarfs.
That's right.
Just to be very clear,
Do you
no
think
dwarves.
they changed that because the
don't do
original
anything.
idea is they weren't gonna use the characters,
I think they just didn't.
or are they just afraid of the word?
I think they're afraid of the word.
Okay.
Yeah, I really do. I think that's what's going on. But they're afraid of a lot of things.
Yes, they are.
They don't know what to be afraid
Yeah.
of or not to be afraid of at this
You
point.
never
It's
know
just-
what to be afraid of until it's too late.
Until it's too late.
Yeah. Am I afraid of woke? Am I afraid of anti-woke? Am I afraid to half asleep? Like, I don't know what I'm supposed to be afraid of anymore, but I'm afraid
It does
of it.
feel that way, where you're just kind of like, I don't. What? No, okay, I guess.
Yeah.
We'll make this sterile ass movie. That's what
Yeah.
we'll do. Can't offend anybody.
And yet, you will. Because
Oh, don't! That's a challenge.
Yeah,
John.
right,
Let's
right.
say you can't offend anyone.
everything is a Rorschach test against my own personal sensibilities. That's the world we live
That's
in.
very much how it feels.
Yeah. So let's go around the virtual table and everyone can introduce themselves.
This is Joe.
This is Kevin.
This is Tom, and joining us via the magic of ZoomTube is Brad Heyen. Did such a great job on episode 499. We rushed him right back into the rotation.
Matt Basler said, "No. This is my spot now."
A movie so frightening, even Matt Basler wouldn't see it. He's
right,
like,
that's right.
I draw the line. We were like, you have to see every Disney animated movie and then every live action adaptation, and then you also need to see all the other Snow White adaptations
yeah.
because it's in the public domain and anybody can make a Snow White movie. Go. And he's like,
See?
I'm out.
He's still watching them.
If you just go to Alamo, you can watch them all
That's
before
right,
the
that's
movie,
exactly
which is
right.
nice because they
Show
show
clips of
every obscure
everything.
adaptation. Yeah.
Oh, so they showed the movie this
All
time.
right.
Alamo did. Oh, that's nice.
I will
a
say,
fun
Joe
twist.
and I go to Alamo almost every week, and they have never not shown the movie.
It is
for
wild.
us. Just
that the
to
one
be
ti-
clear,
the one
They are-
time that Tom,
the one-
that
They're
Tom
batting
listens to
1,000
us.
for me. They've
Yeah, I
never
know.
shown the movie when I've gone. So
and out of spite, you'll make sure it stays that
and I
way.
will always mock them for it until I die. And then I'll put it on my headstone. So
Went
Hey, as
to the
long as you
Alamo
mention all the
once.
times, AMC has tried to show a screening for an hour and a half and then sent you home, and Marcus has done it, and every other time that every other theater chain is messed up, as long as we put that out
I
there.
blame that on the promotions company.
Oh, okay.
They should be there making sure that movie's already downloaded. It's literally their job.
And
So
it's not like you're waiting on reels. You're just waiting on
Yeah.
a file to download.
just download. Yeah. So
Wait till you find out that Joe and I paid Alamo to not show the movie to you just for the content.
We canceled the one screening.
We're creating all the YouTube shorts out of
That's
this.
right,
Tom is
that's right.
outraged over Alamo not showing the screening.
So before we dig into the movie du jour, shameless plugs, don't forget we're available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeart, TuneIn, wherever you find a podcast, you can find us. While you are there, be sure and follow us so you never miss an episode. Maybe leave us a review if you would be so kind, and also a kind review if you would be so kind.
Yeah.
You can also find us on Facebook at facebook.com/realspoilers. While you're there, like the page, join the group. The group is called the League of Show Sharers because we are hoping you will share an episode. People who were kind enough to share an episode last week include Phil Timon, Gabriel Lugo, Tammy Lynn Powers, Betts, Lane Levanway, Julianne Jordan, Michael Tonkovic, Travis Tewitt, Tom Dowdy, Richard Krotzer, Ralph Tribble, Chris Magic Man, Brendan McGuckin, Aaron Kyleman, Heather Sachs, Geek to Me Radio, Dissect That Film, Mike, and Oscar, Ryan Terry, NostalgiaCast, Ronnie Castle, and Matt Naglia. And, of course, joining us this week, the namesake of the Brad Heyen rule, which is
right.
You don't get read in the League of Show Sharers if you're sharing the episode you were on, because that's common courtesy.
Correct.
I just want to point out he was not on last week's episode.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And yet, the astute listener might also notice that he was not on our list of League of Show Sharers. So
That is correct.
I just want to point out that
This is not a Brad Heyen
there's
rule
not like an
situation.
inverse Brad Heyen rule to where if you're on and you shared the previous week's episode that you were not on, we won't know. We would give you many accolades
We would.
if you had shared last week's episode and then graced
you
us with your
didn't,
presence.
so-
But that is
Yeah.
not what
Yeah,
occurred.
go fuck yourself.
No, we don't want anyone to mistakenly
Right.
think that Brad Heyen shared the episode.
Yes.
That would be giving him credit where credit is not due.
And
We
I
would not
also
do that.
don't want people to think that we are deliberately slighting him while he's sitting here in front of us.
Yeah,
Like, that
no.
would
Of course not.
be
We would do that for sure.
that
He would get a song. It would be a whole
Yeah.
celebration if he shared it and was on the
Confetti would
show.
drop down if you're
Oh.
watching on YouTube. If you're just listening,
Cancel the confetti.
if you're just listening in your car, confetti would drop down in your car. But
Yeah, we had it all planned.
but
Yeah, we have so few listeners. We
can do
can
that.
make that happen when
Yeah,
we have them in their car.
5 confetti bags are not that expensive.
the really tough one is the people who like live in like New York and listen on the subway.
Correct.
We were just gonna have you mugged.
Which was going to happen anyway.
Yeah.
Well, don't even tell them what we were going to do for the Tesla people. So it doesn't matter now.
I'm pretty sure we ran all of those woke bastards out.
Those guys are all
or
gone.
anti-woke bastards. So
Yeah.
I get so spun around it who I'm supposed to offend. I don't
'Cause
even
we don't know.
remember anymore.
We don't know anymore.
Don't even remember. I just look down in the comments and I'm like, look how mad they are. They're so mad down there. Wow. What an ugly, sad existence you must have.
I'm excited. I am excited. And please feel free to chime in on the comments on YouTube. I'm excited to see where the like-dislike ratio ends up with this one, because our episodes are generally like 92%, 95% positive likes to dislikes, and it goes like 90 whatever, and then we get to Captain America Civil War, and it's like 75% likes, and then it goes back up to 90 whatever. And so this one, I'm sure, will coincidentally go back down to the
You know,
dislike.
the title
ratio.
is like woke or broke. Like when they see the banner or whatever. Just
Lure 'em in,
Yeah,
lure 'em
exactly,
into it, and
exactly.
Snow woke and the 7 Igers.
Oh.
It's absolutely wild to me. Like, I've never been so like Snow White, whatever. It's never been my market, right? Like Princess, I've seen Snow White. I saw it again recently, but then this past 2 weeks, I've never realized how many people were actually so passionate about Snow White and because of the comments on every post about
It's
Snow White.
also,
I'm like, seriously?
The same men who, like, if you were to go into whatever manosphere they live in and say, I really like Sleeping Beauty, they'd be like, get out of here, queer. And now,
But now you've destroyed their Snow
these
White.
same people are upset about an almost 100-year-old movie
Yeah.
that, like, look, I rewatched this on Friday, the cartoon, because I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't think I've seen the cartoon probably since it came out.
Yeah, I hardly watch it. I watched it. I've seen it a few times over the years, but
And like, look, here's the deal: it is a super important movie in the history
Absolutely.
of film,
Yes.
in the history of animation, in the history of the Disney legend, and it's also really more of a historical artifact than it is a fun movie to sit down and watch. Like, it's kind of a little bit of a slog, and I mean, it's from 1937. It's like 80. Well, what's the math on that? 88 years old, 87 years old. So it's like movies were just paced differently back then, and it's great, especially but you also have to always watch it with a historical mindset of like there were literally people sitting there drawing every frame. Like
Right.
it doesn't it with what we're used to seeing today. It's not at the same level, even though it's probably a much greater artistic achievement than something modern day that's great, like a Frozen or I don't know, a
That's
Wreck-It
just
Ralph or
dragging.
whatnot.
That's just a drag and click.
Well, okay. I mean, we could spend all day talking about the art
Yeah.
form. I mean, those movies take several
They
years
do.
to
And I
produce.
guess
that
that
the
was
animation. I mean, look at Frozen 2
Right.
and how far they came from Frozen 1 and the water effects and all the particles. I mean, those movies are incredible. But what you're saying is the legacy of this film, 1937, it's the first ever feature-length animated movie. I mean, cartoons were relegated to little shorts before movies. They were it was totally different. To do this, to make a full feature-length film out of, into an animated, I mean, it was unheard of. People said it would kill Disney.
It's one of those movies where you can talk about. We've said before, like, I can't believe this got made. Like, how did this even happen? You know what I mean?
Disney put every penny he had into it, and if it failed, we would not know the name Disney today.
If it failed, this would be a movie you could buy on DVD at the dollar store.
Yeah.
In that big giant bin of like, what is this?
Like Veggie
the company
Tales
would
and
have
stuff
gone
like-
under, I mean, so you guys kind of think like, and that's kind of the cool thing about Disney. Disney, back in the day, when Disney founded Disney, I mean, it was such a different company. He would reinvest all of his money back into his movies, and Sleeping Beauty was another one that almost tanked the studio. Like, he would continuously bet everything on it, and because he did that, we have, Disney is such a part of pop culture today. But historically, Snow White, very important movie. But yeah, it's not one that I don't think people talk about going back and watching as often. I mean, nowadays, it's just kind of been lost to time.
It's like
people
reading. It's like reading Action Comics #1.
Yeah.
Like, you can read it, but it is a very different style of comic booking.
Yeah.
You probably don't go back and read that one every year like you would maybe some other stories. And so very important. But again, the amount of people that care about it, that have chosen to care about Snow White.
it.
Right.
Yeah.
It's so silly. And like, again, think about this. As of a few years ago, going back, how often did you hear anyone outside of like, Disney historians or, people that love Disney ever talk about Snow White? It existed. No one ever talked about it. And now people are willing to die on this cross of that Disney is ruined. It's the first ever animated movie, and now look at what they've done, and then woke this and blah, blah, and it's like, good Lord, it's a children's
I will
movie.
say the original production stuff of this movie was a mess.
Sure, it went through a lot of
There were no
crap, yeah.
dwarves. Like, it was. We'll get into it, but I'm almost positive the other group that show up in this movie were the other group that we saw in that still image.
That's what I was wondering when I was watching it. I was like, are the band of Mary?
I think they are.
Whatever.
I
think
that's the original.
Okay.
Who we were going to see that were like the substitutes for the Seven Dwarfs.
Okay, it's interesting. I didn't look into it that far, but while I was watching, I thought the same thing. I'm like, oh, are those who were actually playing?
I think what we see of them
Okay.
we'll get there. But what we see of them was what we saw of them in the original version of this movie. Because this is one of those movies where it's like, apparently they reshot everything. Like,
I didn't know that.
They had to add in the dwarves. They had to add in all that stuff. Like this, this.
Now, Joe, they're dwarfs.
What am I saying?
Dwarves.
This is this is based on Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs.
So Disney has dwarves with an F.
Okay.
Tolkien has dwarves with a V.
Oh, I did not realize that.
This is like they're almost. How do I
I've
say
never
that?
heard that.
But you didn't know that?
I did not know that. I did not
so
know
it's
that.
the movie is Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. It's not the typical
But you're
spelling
saying
of
that
dwarves.
Tolkien owns the rights to?
No,
with the
I don't
V?
know. No, they don't. That's just a stylistic choice.
Oh.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I thought you said that Tolkien was like, no, that's mine.
No, it's just.
I don't think he copied.
No,
he,
like
trademarked
well,
it.
and,
No.
and Lord of the Rings comes out after Snow White,
Right,
so
right,
maybe
right.
he did it to differentiate himself, right? Like that's kid stuff.
Yeah.
That's
now I'm
fair.
over here doing grown-up nerd.
Yeah.
I'm not
Here,
doing
read this.
I'm not doing little kid nerd for girls.
Yeah, and then the only adaptation that he can get done to begin with is a cartoon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, the outrage stuff is silly, I think. I mean, if you think the movie looks bad, if you think the CG looks wonky or whatever, fine. I mean, that's a totally normal opinion. I've
And
thought
it
the same
does.
things. And it right.
Oh, see, I didn't
like,
think it looked
but
weird at all.
It's a little wonky. It's a little wonky. But it's outside of the movie, when you see the trailers and the stills, it just it seems a little off or something. But again, like, okay, fine, that's a totally fine opinion. But the whole thing about people saying that they like ruined the story and all that, it's like, come on.
It's what we've said about remakes a million times. Is like, yes, they're going to remake everything at some point, but that doesn't mean the original goes anywhere.
Yeah, just don't see it. That's the thing I've never understood about the outrage. Like, first of all, I don't know how these people have enough time on their hands to be mad about stuff like this. I wish I knew how it was possible. But like, if you think something looks bad, or like, you're in your 40s and you're mad about a children's film, like maybe just don't go see the children's film.
Just shut up about it.
I don't understand. Like, could you imagine like getting mad about like everything? Like, I'm not a sports person. If every time they were making some kind of like sports movie or retelling a story that was a famous sports story, if I was like,
All right, that
gosh, they've
depends on what they're. It's. I will
but
say.
you know what I mean? But if I
I
was on my Facebook all day, every day, railing about how like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe it. The forward was more tan in real life or what.
I do think as I'm getting older, and like they're making movies about things that I watched, happen, and they're not getting. Okay, so the Page movie, right? Fighting for My Family.
Okay.
They do this whole thing at the end of the movie where Paige walks out on Raw and they tell this whole story and blah, blah, blah. They don't tell the story right. Like, what they show in the movie isn't what happened. And you can go online and look at what happened. So like if there's like live video, it's almost like if a team wins the Super Bowl and in the movie they lose. You know what I mean? Like, it's something as simple as that, where it's like everybody saw them win. Why would you?
Well, I mean, yeah, that's pretty drastic. I get your point, but like also in films, they change things a lot of time to follow the narrative, right?
Sure.
To like make it a 2-hour film. And so it's hard to do everything exactly the same way. And I don't think that they're trying to, like in that case, I don't think they're trying to hide what happened or to embellish it, so to speak. I think they wanted to make a movie that told a story that had kind of the same arc of coming from nothing to something and make it exciting. In this case, you're talking about a Grimm's fairy tale that Disney adapted in 1937,
right?
And now they're remaking it in 2025. Like Tom said, 88 years later, whatever it is, and it's like, so they're gonna remake it. Who cares? I don't know. I don't get it. But you know what I will say about this? So isn't the original only like 60 minutes, right? Because it was the first
short.
feature film.
No, it's an hour and 21 minutes.
Oh, it's actually not. Okay,
Yeah.
I thought it was a little bit
I
short.
thought it
Okay.
was too. I don't want to be like, I'm Rain Man. I watched
Maybe
it on Friday.
Maybe
so-
okay.
yeah.
Maybe Sleeping Beauty. You just have every runtime for every
runtime,
animated film.
every movie ever.
Tom has an encyclopedic knowledge of the.
I am pretty
You do,
crazy
though.
sometimes. We'll be watching something. My wife will be like, "When did that movie come out?" And I'm like, "I think it was like 1952." And it was like she logs.
Sure.
She's like, "Son of a bitch." She's
It
like,
was
"But
March
you don't,
14th,
but you don't
1957.
remember our anniversary?" And I'm like, "Who's
You know what?
talking right now?"
I think Dumbo's the 60
It
minute
is
one, isn't it?
Dumbo. I think is like 61 minutes.
Okay,
Look it
and
up.
then Sleeping
I want to know if I got
Sleeping,
it right.
Okay, Sleeping Beauty is an hour and 15, so it's a little bit shorter. But I think Dumbo's the real short
is.
one. Let me see.
I wish that Tim
64
Burton one
minutes.
was
Okay.
64. Okay.
I wish that was 6.4
God, that
minutes.
movie sucked
but
so hard.
That was so. What I will say about this film, though, is we talk about the remakes, right? And sometimes they're really good, sometimes they miss the mark, like Dumbo, like Joe just said. This movie, I think, captures the story really well and expands upon it, like Cinderella did. Like, I thought that giving the backstory of her growing up and the new songs are by Pasek and Paul, so I thought they were 100 times better than some of the stuff we've seen, like Moana 2 or even the Lion King, which was a surprise.
Yeah.
But you're like, how are they missing the mark this bad? But like these songs actually sounded
songs,
like
I
they
thought,
belonged in a
felt like a Disney
movie.
The songs, I still don't think they have a breakout song that will stand the test of time, like
Sure.
Let It Go.
Right.
But these were.
Or brother, my
Oh
brother.
my God!
Oh, boy.
He needs to go.
Well, we still remember it.
He needs to go to. I still remember the Edsel. So but these are infinitely better than anything we got in Mufasa, anything we got in Moana 2.
Moana 2, right?
Yeah.
Like the songs are good because Pasek and Paul. I mean, Lin-Manuel obviously is no slouch, but I mean,
but he was doing some slouching. But I also think the songs did a really good job of fitting in sonically with the other songs in the movie, and I really liked like on Hi Ho where they added whole new.
Yeah, they didn't
like
just
verses.
do the hi ho part. They added
like
it's a whole song.
And they added a whole bunch of stuff to it, and it never felt like it stopped being one song and started being another song. I thought they did a really good job of matching the songs tonally.
And Tom, speaking of tonally, what was really nice, what they did is because of the song Hi Ho, they had Hi Ho, Kermit the Frog here as the main lead in this film.
Could you imagine?
When he sang, he sounded just like Kermit the Frog.
Did he? I didn't.
Who did?
When he hit the high notes, that the male love interest in this movie, the not Prince Charming, he sounded like Kermit the Frog. Katie mentioned something, and the whole time I watched, I'm like, oh my God, I cannot unhear it now.
Well, they did in this one what we have been complaining about since Cinderella, where it's not a scene for scene remake. Like they do their own thing.
I felt like they really captured key components when she goes into the forest for the first time and gets lost in this really weird kind of psycho trip. That's almost shot for shot. Or when
it's really scary in the original too, and they captured that well.
When she's cleaning the dwarf's cabin.
Thank you.
And the animals are helping. Like that's very similar.
That was the other thing I noticed is these animals, while they do look like real like the Lion King real animals, there is a level of Disney animation
cartoony
looking.
There's a cartoon aspect.
The other animals, like their facial expressions don't change, right? Like you don't see Simba smile.
So the Lion King is supposed to look like live action, right?
Look what's happening to Simba. Why would Simba smile?
I got to tell you, Tom, you're not wrong.
Do you think Simba has a lot to smile about?
Probably not.
You just saw your father get murdered. Why don't you smile more?
Yeah, you should. Yeah, you should smile more.
You'd be so much prettier if you smiled.
Oh,
smile
boy.
more. But like
this is going in a whole different direction.
These animals, like their eyes move, like they're smiling. They like the little hedgehog with smiles and waves.
Oh, that hedgehog was cute.
The hedgehog was cute.
That's why they used him 3 times because he's like waving.
So I will say, like,
Kevin is specifically referring to Ron Jeremy, though.
Correct.
Just so people know.
Who is a hedgehog?
Yeah.
No, he's canceled. We wouldn't talk about him on this show.
I thought he was dead.
We're way too.
Is he dead?
He's in prison.
No,
I think
he's in jail.
Maybe that's what I heard. Sorry. I'm coming to your show and spreading false information here.
That's what we do anyway. But like at least they didn't go the route of hyper realistic animals. Like these animals do look like they belong in
a fairy tale,
a Disney princess movie.
Yeah, they do a really good job. It's like a hybrid of live action and hand drawn animation, right?
Yeah.
And so I agree. I thought the animation for the animals looked really good. The dwarfs, once you get used to them, again, I don't think they're that bad. It's just there's something uncanny about them, right? Because at this point, animation has gotten so good that now you've got these animated characters brought to life, but they have such realistic qualities, but they're also cartoonish. And so there's just something alarming about them. Like it's just a bit jarring. But I mean, the animation looked good for what it was. Like the quality is good, but I don't know. It was a weird live action mashup to me.
Especially when they had to come in so fast and add them into the movie.
Yeah, that could have been part of it too. Is the rush job of it to where like they're really good, but something's just a little off. Like
you'll notice that you almost never see a dwarf on screen with another human.
Exactly.
Like, or when you, and
Yeah.
when
Yeah,
you
yeah,
do,
that's a good
they're
point.
like
Yeah.
off in the background. Like you almost never see them in the same shot with a human being, because I think it's really jarring when that happens. So it's always like a cut
Yeah,
back and
because
forth.
I mean, I think obviously they had to add in the cleaning. Maybe they didn't. Maybe I don't know. I don't know what this movie looked like. They released that image, and people. I thought initially when they released that image, I thought the people that were behind Snow White. It's on like a hill, and Snow White is leading them somewhere. And you see the actors, and I was like,
I think she's
okay.
leading them to a pro-choice rally. Is what she's going.
what it is.
Yeah.
I thought it was like the Michael Bay Ninja Turtles, where I'm like, oh, these are the people who are going to be mocapped and
right.
You know, they're going to be the mocap for these, and then people are just like, no, that's them, like that's who was going to be in the movie, and it was just like, what are you doing?
Did they?
Right. So they were trying to get away from the idea of dwarfs. It was trying to be like they were. I don't know if it was supposed to be something more mythological.
I wonder if they were supposed to be the
s-
bandits. Like, I just wonder if that's who they were going to substitute in.
I just think that Disney was trying to get like they're trying not to offend, and obviously people like I think Peter Dinklage had come out against this
Look,
movie,
if
and
there are two things little people hate, it's being cast as Santa's elf or one of Snow White's dwarves, right? Like it's
He's an angry elf.
yeah. I mean, they just hate it, and I don't blame them.
Not at all.
And so, like, I get the inclination of like, let's just not even touch it. But then, in fairness to the people that were upset, but then what are you doing here? Right? Like,
I agree.
Like, then why are you remaking this property at all? Like, if it's just that much of a third rail for modern sensibilities, then just let it be.
Just let it be.
And so I think where they landed ultimately makes sense of like let's CGI them and make them look like the dwarfs that you see in the cartoon, which makes sense. I just still think like the CGI just always felt weird to me, and the more time they spent focusing on Dopey, the creepier it got.
He got creepier and creepier as the movie went on.
Yeah,
I agree with you.
Well, they focus on him a lot, I think, and
Did
so
you think
you
he
just
looked like Ron Howard?
No, I think he looked like the banjo playing hillbilly from Deliverance.
Oh my god!
Every single dwarf. Sorry, Kevin. Every single
Go ahead.
dwarf, they had this like familiarity to them.
Yeah.
Like to somebody famous. Like I could not place it on any of them, but every single one, I'm like, that looks like somebody that I've seen before, and I can't figure it out. And I kept leaning toward like other actors or public figures that we have seen, and I could never place it. But every single, I'm glad you asked that because I'm like, they look so familiar.
Eventually, Brad was
I thought he looked like Opie.
That's funny. So I sent you guys a picture of the real actor, Andrew Barth Feldman, that voices Dopey. Like they made the CG character look like him.
They did. Like
interesting.
It's
Obviously exaggerated his ears in the cartoon, the animation,
yeah,
but like
reined him in a little bit. But
Oh,
sorry,
Yeah, he
got somebody
totally
got
does,
me being
though.
mean to that guy. But he does it. It's very reminiscent of when they made the genie look like Robin Williams. Like he had, But
yeah, so like they're trying to capture, like it's an interesting thing when you have a actor that's either voicing or doing the mocap for animated, but then you make the animated character look like them, but it's not a photorealistic.
Or
you know what I mean? So
you think you have an actor for a certain movie, and then weeks before production starts, that actor drops out, and now
The Snowman?
the Snowman,
What? Jack Frost.
Jack Frost. Where if
Yeah.
you look at that
George
Snowman,
Clooney.
he looks just like George
yeah.
Clooney. It
Yeah,
is
there's
not-
a reason
it is
for that.
Michael Keaton who steps in and does that. And I couldn't figure out why it looked like George Clooney until they're like, yeah, he was going to be in the movie until like a week before, and then
Right.
dropped out.
So, interestingly enough, this movie is directed by Mark Webb,
Yeah,
who did
Spider-Man.
500 Days of Summer. He did the Amazing Spider-Man movies. I mean,
Spectacular
talented
Now.
director.
Oh, did he do
Spectacular
that one
Now.
too?
Okay.
Yeah.
Man,
So, I mean, really, really good director behind this. I maybe haven't seen him do as much stuff recently, but a solid director. This was written in part by Greta Gerwig. She doesn't have the official writing credit, but I was interested to find out that she helped develop this movie. And there's like a bunch of writers that aren't, getting the main credit.
I find Greta Gerwig fascinating.
I totally agree with you.
Like, she is because she comes from this art house hipster world. But then she'll work on Barbie. She'll work on Snow White.
She knows how to get paid.
She'll work on Narnia.
Narnia.
She was supposed to be the star of How I Met Your Father.
Oh, really?
They shot a different pilot during the last season of How I Met Your Mother that starred Greta Gerwig, and as the main character, as the female Ted Mosby, if you will, and you will. And it didn't get picked up, and then a few years later, Hulu made the Hilary Duff one. But so it's like, for someone that has this foot in this like really cool art house world, but she's also like, no, I'll come over here and take your money and make your mainstream stuff.
That's exactly
right. But she also makes your mainstream stuff and just puts a little bit of a spin on it of like, but I'm also going to come at it kind of sideways.
That's
and
Barbie.
Like,
Barbie, 100%.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so
that movie doesn't work without her. I don't think.
I can't. It's one of the few movies I can think of where I can't imagine a different version of that movie that would have worked.
Yeah.
But I also get why they were probably scared to death the entire time she was making it. Like, it's one of those
they're
things.
Looking at stuff, they're just like, what the
We're
fuck
doing
is
what
she
now?
doing?
Like, I really think it probably doesn't make sense until you put it all together and present someone the finished product. When
Right.
you read a script, you're like, we're doing what now? When you see the dailies, you're like, oh my God, what are we doing? Like,
It's Jack Sparrow all over
It
again.
is, except it's the entire movie, not just a character. Yeah.
Yeah, I think she understands that old school mentality of the like one for them, one for me type of thing, or like the old who was it, like John Cassavetes that used to
big time.
do stuff to fund his projects.
Yeah, he'd
and,
go off and make a Columbo. And
Yeah,
Peter
like
Falk
you
would
would-
do the same thing. Peter Falk would make Columbo and then give all this money to Cassavetes to go make a movie. So
Yeah, so I think she understands that, and it's just a different mentality. It's like you're not so anti-corporate or anti, I'm not like, I won't take your money, I'm just going to be artistic. Like, she understands that she needs money to fund her passion projects, and it's great that she'll go out there, but she also puts that twist on it, right? Like you said, you can't imagine someone else making Barbie. If Greta Gerwig wasn't involved, it wouldn't have been the smash hit that it was,
It would
right?
also
So she's
feel forced and maybe a little.
It's not corporate, right?
yeah.
So she's making a big studio movie, but it doesn't feel corporate. It's not just pushing, selling toys. She has something to say with it. There's a voice, and obviously it's very funny, and it's just a fun movie.
I saw a trailer. This is kind of in that world. I saw a trailer for a new A24 movie, but it's a war movie, like it's a military movie, and I was like,
Okay.
man, a military movie. Sent out there by A24. I don't know what this is gonna be, but I don't think it's gonna be Black Hawk Down or something like. Or
it's going to be Civil War.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a great call. Yeah, that's it. But it's. I saw that trailer and I was like, God, that's gonna be wild, and I can't wait to see what that looks like.
Yeah. So
Brad's trying to jump in here.
Just a quick second while we were on trailers, and it's a completely offshoot here. Did any of you guys see the trailer for that sneakers movie for Snow White?
No.
There's a movie it's an animated movie about a pair of sneakers that get separated and have to find each other in the middle of the city. It was absolutely
damn it.
wild.
that sounds awesome.
But it's got like a bunch of like Kendrick Lamar, I think, or not Kendrick Lamar, but Mustard is producing it and stuff. It was absolutely insane. A bunch of cheesy shoe jokes, and I was like, I have to ask the guys tomorrow if they saw this trailer and what they think about it.
for shoes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got.
I love that.
What did I get? I got Lilo and Stitch.
Yep.
And the new Pixar flick, whatever that's going to be.
Oh yeah,
Elio.
Elio, yeah.
Yeah. I hope that's good.
Both
'cause
look great.
They need a hit.
I would love Pixar needs to make some really good original movies so they don't have to. I mean, it's fine. I get it. They're going back to the well. But remember when Pixar started and it wasn't sequels? It was just original after original after original. And now, you know, for better or worse, you're getting Toy Story 5 and Coco 2.
I
and
think that's
Inside Out
Disney.
2.
That's doing
That's
that,
what I
right?
mean.
You know, yeah,
Disney,
it's-
but I 100% agree. It's not just Pixar. It's Disney Pixar. And Disney's trying to increase their value. And I totally get it. It's just, I would love to see movies like Elio take off so
too.
that
I
we
will
can
say
get
the
more.
animation style looks different. Like
Yeah,
there is
looks
there is
fun.
a different. I think we've said before that Disney and Pixar have started to look like each other, and unless you are in the know, you couldn't tell a Pixar movie from a
Yeah.
Disney movie because they look the same.
Well, so the movie Elemental, did you see that from a year ago or
did,
so?
yeah.
Okay, like that's a different
It
look
did,
to it.
yeah.
Like they're still making some of their original stuff where you can tell them apart, and I like that. I just don't want them to stop. I don't want them to only make, you know, I mean, I'll welcome another Toy Story movie. I'll welcome another Cars movie. You know, the kids love them and they're fun and they do a good job with them, but I want these originals to work, right? I want them to make money because if they don't make money, they will not continue to invest in these unique stories and different kinds of animation and all of that. So, yeah, I hope Elio is really good. It looks fun. But also, so, well, I don't know if we should wait till Tom gets back. I was going to say people involved in this movie. So, Rachel Ziegler, I thought, did a really good job as Snow
Fantastic.
White. She's a good actress. I know she gets crap because of whatever political stuff.
I
or
do wonder.
what.
And she could sing too.
She can sing.
Yeah.
She's got a hell of a voice, but I do wonder if going forward, I think this movie is going to change how contracts are written. And I
Oh yeah, why is that?
And I do wonder if studios are going to put something in these big, you know, Superman or the Fantastic things like that are these massive tentpole movies. There's
of what you can say.
of like, hey, shut the fuck up.
They're gonna have like instead of
Like-
a morals clause, they'll have like
Yeah.
a political comment clause.
Like, hey, you are allowed to believe and feel however you want to think about whatever it is. Don't you put it on social media. Shut your mouth.
But I get what you're saying, but the problem is there are so many things that become politicized that you wouldn't
Yeah.
even think
Look
would
at
be.
the
very
gal
true.
from Scream.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That what Melissa Barrera, is that her name?
Mhm.
I mean, lost a franchise because she supported one side over another.
Yeah.
Well, then that's the same problem that these two got into,
Right.
her and Gal Gadot. It's the same. That's very polarizing, and you can't have an opinion. You're going to piss off 50% of the people either way, right? And so it's just a mess when it gets so politicized. But for her, as far as being cast for the role, her singing, her acting, she's very charming. She has, I think she is very much like a Lily James that we talk about in Cinderella, where when you think that Snow White is the kindest of all the princesses, you know, she's just a kind, sweet person. I think she did a really good job of capturing that.
I would agree.
100%.
Yeah, I thought she was the highlight of the film. I think, like, the flaws in this movie become amplified tenfold, if not for her.
I agree.
Yeah, she's very charming. You know, we'll get it out of the way right away since we should probably talk a little bit about the plot of the movie. Why is she called Snow White? So traditionally, it's like her skin was white as snow. That's the fairy tale. And this one, the very opening of the movie, she was born during a huge snowstorm, and they got through it. And her parents, like, as whatever, her strength and getting through it and whatever, they named her Snow White
Right.
because of the snowstorm. So
And the internet went berserk. Yes. Said, no, that is not
But-
how it should
but-
be. I've
Yeah,
loved
but
this
you know-
princess forever.
yeah. It's like, okay, so when this controversy came out, like the first thing I said was, oh, they're gonna have a way to explain it. Like, you can't take a character called Snow White and just like
say that
ignore.
we call her that because she's so white.
Yeah.
or yeah,
We
or-
call her
or
Snow
ignore.
White. You know how, like, you'll call a big guy tiny?
Yeah.
That's why we call her Snow
So,
White.
but it's like, so people went insane about this, but it's like clearly they're gonna have a way to explain it. And like, seriously, why do you care so much?
I got to give you props, Kevin, because like for years you've told me to just ignore the comments, but I've been inundated with this Facebook post. Everything's been about Snow White for 2 weeks, and I read the headline. I'm like, okay, what? And I take a look at the comments, and then I don't have the capacity to not
Don't.
respond to them sometimes. You
Yeah.
know?
It gets
and
me-
I'm like,
I
I know
quote-
you
I
don't
quote-
care about this movie.
I
Why are you
quote-
talking
I
about it?
Tweeted Kevin Sorbo today, just
Oh,
because
no.
I was like, I can't. He was like, he posted a GIF of the end of this movie of all of the characters dancing and in all, you know, whatever, and he was like, this is why the left shouldn't make movies anymore. and I said, I quote tweeted it, and I was like, "You mean a movie for kids?" I said, "I'll tell you what. Let me know when one of your movies grosses half of what this movie made already, and then come talk to me." Because it's just like that's the whole point of this movie. This one feels, I think this is probably one of the better remakes they've done in that it is, it feels more original than the other stuff.
Yes, that's what I was saying with the Cinderella thing
Right.
I was alluding to earlier. Cinderella takes a story and expounds upon the character and the backstory.
I think Cinderella's
and
the
adds,
best they've done.
I think Cinderella's the best,
Jungle
right?
Jungle Book.
Jungle
I think-
Book is okay.
I go I think Cinderella, Beauty and the Beast, and Jungle Book. That's my ranking. I think
Jungle Book, Cinderella, Pete's Dragon.
Oh yeah, I always
Oh,
forget
okay.
to
See, I don't-
because that was fantastic.
I don't ever think about that one as
It was
you're
so
right.
good.
It's yeah.
That's like under the radar. I
That
never.
was
I
a
don't
David
it was a
Lowery,
sneaky
right?
one. It was absolutely a sneaky one.
Yeah, it's a art. It's because it's like an art house
Yes.
adaptation. It's not.
And
not what you would.
It's what Where the Wild Things Are wanted to be.
Yeah, and it takes the most liberties with its source material. It's
Yeah.
the only thing it has in common is a dragon named Pete. Like it's
Yeah.
That
But
lives in
I
the
think
woods.
yeah.
I think this one took a lot of liberties too, while also staying true to the overall feel of the character. Like it was, this is almost the Dr. Sleep of Disney adaptations, where I feel like it really gets what the original was doing. Like it pays homage, but it also kind of makes it its own and adapts it to the fairy tale as well.
Yeah, and I think
Interesting
people lose sight of the fact of it. Snow White, the movie, is not ultimately
not
the
the-
source material,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Like
Right.
Snow White, the movie, is taking liberties with the Snow White
Yeah.
story, and that it's based on this pre-existing fairy tale that had been around for hundreds of years, and all of Disney
A Grimm's fairy tale, right?
thinks
Is it
Yeah.
Snow White a
Yeah.
Grimm's fairy tale?
Yep.
Which are very
Very dark.
and
Yeah, and so like, especially when people complain about how everything's IP anymore, I'm like, that's Disney built.
Disney created IP.
Yeah.
Like this is the thing that kills me, Tom. When everyone goes, "Oh, how can they just live action remakes, remake of this, remake of that?" It's like, do you know that all the most famous Disney stories are not original?
Yeah.
Star
Like,
Wars
I don't.
is not original.
Yeah,
Well,
It's not. It is not. That is
no,
based
but
on
that-
John
Joe,
Carter,
that's-
and you know it.
No,
you know it.
No.
John Carter
that's-
would have been more successful had there not been a Star Wars.
That is okay, but that is different. That is different. He is taking things from
No,
different
yeah, you're right,
serials
you're
and
right.
movies, and filmmakers have done that for. What I'm saying is, Disney literally took stories he did not write and turned them into animated films.
Right.
And it'd be right, like so. People are like, Rudyard Kipling is the Jungle Book, and all these fairy tales. So people get so mad about remakes and adaptations, but it's like Disney was built on remakes and adaptations, right? And so I just don't get why people pick and choose. I mean, I know why they do it, but it's so silly because listen to yourself. You're getting mad about something that Disney himself grew up with these old fairy tales and said, I want to make my version. And so these people now for
George
2025,
Lucas and Star Wars.
for 2025, people want to make their version of Snow White. And there's, and so when Rachel Ziegler comes out and said, this is a stronger Snow White and she doesn't need a prince to save her, the prince is changed into, there's another lead male actor, but he's like a soldier that's out in the forest.
I got to tell
But,
you,
like,
I thought they were going to turn. There was a moment where I was like, are they saying that this guy's going to be Robin Hood? Like
I know.
The way,
I was thinking that too.
the way they set him up, where he's like stealing from the rich and giving to the poor. He's dressed all in green the whole time, and I was like,
He's got a
they
team
could
of
do
merry
it.
men.
Yeah,
Like,
he's got a whole people of merry men,
that is funny.
and I was like, they can do it, right? They can. Robin Hood's in. I don't think they never did
they did a cartoon Robin
They
Hood.
did the cartoon Robin
Yeah.
Hood,
yeah.
but they could throw Robin Hood into this world, and
That's
it
probably
would
the
work.
next live action.
Yeah,
I love the cartoon
Oh my
Robin
god, Robin
Hood.
Hood! That run of Disney stuff, like that era, is
Robin-
the jam.
I think, well, Thomas said this not exactly, but he said like make the animation Pixar, but keep the audio for
Yes.
the originals.
Yeah.
But like if they were gonna remake Robin Hood, it doesn't have to be the same audio necessarily, but make it a cool Pixar because the animals, I think the CG animation lends itself so well. Look at Zootopia, right? Take
Yes.
those animals and put them
But
in
you have
Robin
to,
Hood
if
costumes.
if you're going to do that, you have to make them look like the animals in this. You have to let their eyes emote.
I'm not. Yeah. That's what I'm. That's why I said Pixar, not Disney fake live action.
I see.
Pixar has the cartoonish, like look at Zootopia type, and well, that's Disney, but you know what I mean, like the cartoonish animals, right? But like the really really good high quality animation. So retell the story like that. Don't make them live action, because then live action makes them look uncanny and they don't blend in as well. So I would love a Pixar Robin Hood.
It's only a matter of time, man. They're gonna run. They're gonna catch up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like for me, what I would like to see is
an animated adaptation of the live action version of Snow White and the
Yes,
Seven Dwarfs.
that's exactly
there
what I
you
want.
go.
That's what I want.
I want them to go back to hand-drawn remakes of every live-action adaptation.
I want them to just go door to door with the flip book. That's what I want.
I want them to come to my house with the animation cells,
Yeah.
and quickly do that. Yeah, but I mean, they're
I want them to draw the movie in front of me when I choose to sit
real
down and pop
time.
my popcorn.
Yes.
I want them to the
but
animators.
They've gotten to a point now where so they've started all of like the new Disney classics, right? Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, Lilo and
The
Stitch,
Disney Renaissance,
Mulan.
if you will.
Yeah, they've all been done already. So now they're going back to the beginning. They're gonna they're gonna catch up to each other.
Yeah.
Like, just do the ones that need to be remade. Do a Treasure Planet. Do an Atlantis. Like, those are the ones.
See, though, Atlantis and Treasure Planet would be the ones that should be remade,
Yes.
right? We've talked about the ones with potential, but they didn't necessarily reach their
Atlantis
potential.
works.
But the box office wasn't quite
Correct.
is where it should have been,
'Cause
right?
I don't
like
think there's
Atlantis.
any songs in those.
No, they're not musical. I mean, there might be like little fun numbers in them, but they're not musicals. But like Atlantis is a great movie that should have. So actually, just last week, a fan trailer was like a kickstarted like like a fan film, but like they did a trailer and it looked really good for what a live action Atlantis could
Starring
look like.
Michael
But
J.
yes.
Fox?
I don't think so.
so.
I don't think so. But
they can get him
but
back.
yeah, I agree. If you want to know, so the male lead in this again, Charming, is replaced with this other character who is one of these like merry men out in the forest. The actor's name is Andrew Burnap, and he won a Tony for Best Actor in The Inheritance. So if you wonder where this guy's from, he's from the theater world. Obviously, if you want a Tony, he's pretty darn good.
Yeah, it's all right. It's not
Yeah,
an
so
EGOT.
it's just all right.
That's fine.
So anyway, I had never seen him before, but that's pretty impressive. Tom, have you seen or heard of The Inheritance?
I have not.
I'm not familiar with that one either,
Yeah.
but anyway, that's where this guy came from. When he sings high notes, he sounds like Kermit the Frog. I'm going on record though. Just go back. I'll have to send you a clip of the soundtrack or something and see if you agree. But once you know it, you can't unhear it.
What'd you think of Princess Problems? The song.
I thought that was one of the highlights of the film. Thought that was
we were
maybe the
chuckling
best song.
the whole time. Yeah, we absolutely loved it.
Remind me which one that
That's
was
the one.
again.
That he
I don't
sings,
know the
that's
names
the one
of
that
the
he
songs.
sings to her.
Yeah, then they start singing back and forth toward.
Oh, yeah,
halfway
it was
through the
good.
movie, yeah, it
was
sounds
good.
like you
That's
got
the-
some princess problems, and the moment he said that, I'm like, oh, this is gonna be good. And
Yeah, that's the thing. When you get Pasek and Paul, who did La La Land, right?
Ah,
who
yes,
did the
Blah, Blah
greatest
Land.
La La Land, great songs, The Greatest Showman, great songs.
Death
Like,
Rattle
these-
Dazzle.
What's that?
Death Rattle Dazzle. Is that from Only Murders in the Building? Sorry, took me a second. That song, which the
They wrote
triplets
that.
did it. I know it's so freaking good. Pasek and Paul are great. So when you get them to write songs, I mean, what a difference. And again, this is what I would have expected from Lin-Manuel, but that's mind-boggling with that whole thing. But with this movie, you get songs that sound like they fit in a Disney movie. They're fun. They may not be as memorable as the
I
classic
feel like
Disney
there
songs.
was a lot.
What's that?
A lot of songs.
Yeah, they had to expound upon it, and that's the thing. I think they did. I think that credit to them for the songs fitting in with the story and the story they were trying to tell, and making the movie longer, but in a meaningful way,
Yeah.
right? Not just padding it out, but they were talking about what the character was feeling and going through with her songs, and they were fun and just entertaining,
There
which is
were
what Disney songs should be.
there were a lot, but they never felt like too much in my. The most, in my opinion, that I thought was like I could have done without was the Evil Queen song.
That's because,
okay,
in
so
their
Man-
defense, that's because Gal Gadot is horrible.
Yeah.
I didn't want to say. I was trying not to say that.
star.
Yeah, I
I
said
s-
it the best
Kevin,
way I
God
possibly
damn it.
could.
Like, it is insane to me that she got a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame.
It's a publicity.
I
That's
know what
fine,
it is.
Joe.
I
Buy
hear
'em.
you.
The studio
know.
buys them for you.
So,
But
Snow
it's
White's
like,
coming
you
out.
look-
She gets her star.
You look at
It's
her
just how-
resume, and it's like, okay, you were Wonder Woman. That's a big deal.
She's been in some big movies.
Hey, if it makes you
She's been
feel
in-
any better, if you ever go to Hollywood Boulevard and you look at all the stars there, you're not going to know 80%.
That's true. And I did see that John Carpenter just got a star as well.
Yeah.
Like he's
Which is
just getting a
awesome.
star, which to me it's like, how does that guy not have a star already?
I know.
But yeah, that whole thing where it's just like, dude, she was in a Fast and the Furious movie and got killed off and only got brought back because she was in Wonder Woman. Like that's the only reason she
Yeah.
came back is because her star raised a little bit. And
Has
that's what they do in those movies.
anybody that's been killed off in Fast and the Furious stayed dead? Anybody?
Paul Walker.
Okay.
Paul Walker. Yeah.
Not really.
No,
though.
I guess they didn't. I guess
no,
they didn't
he
kill
has
him
not.
off.
They
I guess they
didn't
didn't
kill
kill
him
him off.
Yeah.
They did the inverse of that in Fast and the Furious. That is like a little fun star of the Hollywood Walk of Fame trivia. Do you know about Aubrey Hepburn? Tom, you might know this.
About what now?
Aubrey Hepburn?
No.
And her star? Aubrey Hepburn was never given a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. They never asked her. And you know who did? The opening of Hollywood Studios. Michael Eisner asked her for a star on the Walk of Fame. And then Hollywood called and said, "Oh my gosh, what an oversight! Would you like to come have a star on the walk?" And the handprints, I should say.
Yeah.
And she said, "Nope."
The Grauman's Chinese Theater
That's
thing.
wild.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
so dope.
So,
That's-
so
that's-
she
I love
only
that.
has her handprints in front of. Yeah, it's not the walk; it's the Grauman's thing. But which is what, the Kodak Theater now? What is the Chinese
Oh,
Theater?
did they
is
change
now
the name of it? I didn't.
I believe they
Yeah.
did, but she only has her handprints at the Hollywood Studios in Orlando. I thought that was a fun
That's funny.
piece of trivia. But anyway, yeah. So songs are good. I thought they were fun. The animation. I liked the animal animation. Again, I think the dwarfs. They're fun once you get used to it. Like in their own little world.
They're not in it a lot either.
No, I mean,
I would give them probably 20 minutes of screen time, if that.
Yeah.
Oh, they
I
have
thought
more
that-
than that.
You think
But-
so?
Yeah.
But they don't. But if you watch the original Snow White, they don't pop up until
That's
like 20 minutes in,
They-
25
right, yeah.
minutes in. It's a good chunk of time.
Yeah. I will say that Hi Ho is their big song, right? I mean, that's the number that everyone remembers. And I thought they did a good job with it. It was pretty fun with I do want to know like how they have the sole access to this huge resources.
I took that
this
as like
mine and-
nobody goes into the forest.
Yeah.
That's, I mean, with the exception
Yeah.
because they even
Everyone's
she's-
scared of the forest.
Yeah, she stumbles into the only reason she gets
That's
there
true.
is because the animals lead her to that house, and the merry
Yeah.
men. We keep calling them the merry men, but that's not close enough.
Right.
They're just
The support so basically Snow White's dad disappears and we don't know what happened to him, but he's the king and there's still people that support him and they live as outcasts outside in this forest. Like they're the few supporters that are left. Gal Gadot, I mean, it's the story of Snow White. They're pretty faithful to what it is, but she's the evil queen. She takes over. She keeps Snow White locked up and doesn't let her leave, and it's the same old, but these people are the supporters of the king that still believe in what he fought for, and they try to rob people, give to the poor, as you say, because now this town, as it always is in Snow White movies, the town is desolate. Like they don't have resources, they can't, what were we? Sorry. The mine. It's not a real complaint, but you look at that mine and like the elaborate mine cart system they have, and there's just like diamonds and jewels everywhere in that thing. And I'm like, man, how that if this was the real world, someone would have went in there and took over that mine. Like they have so many jewels in there, and that the queen is like crazy for jewels. Like she collects all these. She just wants
to be
to
pretty.
hoard the riches, and that's definitely her thing. To that song, though, I wanted to say, so Mandy Moore did the choreography for this.
Is
she
that
did La La
right?
Land.
Not that
It's-
Mandy Moore.
It's not.
Oh. I was
but
like,
she's-
what?
She's done a lot of really good stuff, but La La Land had great choreography, and so she did this. That Evil Queen song is not the best song, and Gal Gadot does not sing the best, but I thought the choreography was really good with the costumes and everything.
I thought costume design, it looked great. I mean, it's hard to Snow White looks like Snow White. The Evil Queen looks like the Evil Queen. The mirror looks like every interpretation of that mirror.
I think Gal Gadot looked like the Evil
Yeah,
Queen.
I
I
told-
think she was great as the Evil
I
Queen.
think
I told Emily
the
on-
look.
Sorry, I told Emily on the way out that regarding that song specifically that I liked everything about like the sequence itself. I just didn't like her singing that.
I feel
That's-
like
it's-
they
you know,
cast her based on a still image. They were like,
I
she
think
looks
you're
great.
right. Doesn't
Yeah.
Julia Roberts play the evil queen in something?
And Mirror Mirror, directed by Tarsum.
Oh,
Yeah, that's you got to go back. So one of the dwarfs in this movie is one of the voices of the dwarfs in this movie voiced a dwarf in Mirror Mirror.
Okay.
He was also in Pirates of the Caribbean, so he has a Disney connection. You notice him; he usually has that little soul patch.
Kevin.
In Pirates of the Caribbean, there's
Such a vague description.
No,
Yeah,
in
he's like,
Pirates of the
out the soul
Caribbean,
patch.
in Pirates of the Caribbean, there is one dwarf that I remember, and
Oh, that guy.
I do know
Yeah,
who you're
okay.
talking
Pirates of
about.
the Caribbean. He always has a soul patch in his movies. But the one dwarf in Pirates of the Caribbean, he is a dwarf in Mirror Mirror, and they're live action. It's not animated, and I think it works really well. They cast little people for all of the dwarfs, and he does a voice of Grumpy, who I thought was really good in this
Okay.
one. So
Yeah,
I don't know for what it's worth.
I
But
think
okay, going back to that real quick though, Joe. Tarsum directed The Fall. He directed The Cell.
Yeah. I didn't realize that he
so
directed Mirror Mirror.
So visually stunning, and so you should check out Mirror Mirror. It didn't get the best reviews. You know, it got
How
like
old is it?
middling. Probably 10 years
Okay,
or something.
okay.
I don't know, 10, 15. But visually, though, it is a really cool looking movie with all the costumes and the way the Queen Julia Roberts actually goes into the mirror and like comes out of the water. Like
I wanted to
she
touch
goes to
on
like
that
a
in
different
this movie.
dimension.
That is
yeah.
like some horror in this movie.
The ending
Yeah.
was really creepy.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
When she gets sucked in, so like it's the we all know the story. I don't remember how the evil queen dies in the original.
she like falls off a
She-
cliff.
The dwarves chase her off a cliff.
Is that right?
In the rain,
Yeah.
she's like chasing them in the rain on a cliff, and then she falls to her death.
This is worse. Because she
Oh, this
gets
is crazy,
mad
yeah.
at the mirror because the mirror is like, no, bitch, you're ugly. Like, no.
Also, could you imagine having all? Yeah, I thought that was a really
yeah, it was a bold
risky
move
way
for
them
Mark
to-
Webb
it was.
to add that in.
But could you imagine though having all the power and all the riches, and the mirror being like, "Yeah, you're the second prettiest of all of people, and you're also rich and
The
powerful."
entire
I'd be
population, you're like, no.
yeah, I'd be like, okay, cool. I'm pretty good with that. Like,
So yeah, she throws. She breaks the mirror, and that like opens up this mirror dimension, and she gets sucked. She gets turned into like, I don't even know what it was. Basically like ash, and
Yeah.
then gets sucked into the mirror. And I was like, oh, this is the prequel to Oculus. I've seen this. Like that's what
I
this
got a
is.
question about
Yeah.
that now, though. If I didn't really put that much thought into it before, because again, it's just a
It's
kid
Snow
fun
White.
movie, right? It's Snow White,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
if Snow White's the fairest of them all, being the kindest person throughout the entire movie, and that is at the end of the movie, like she is the fairest because it comes from within.
Right.
Has the mirror just been lying to the queen the entire time and saying that she is?
I took that as that
I think
didn't
it's like a
start
point
happening
system.
until.
Because
It's like
Oh,
it
I think it's
wasn't,
a point
it wasn't
system. I think
until she goes and saves Jonathan, and kind of and gives Jonathan the bread, and and kind of sends him on and has this act of kindness because she's been locked in this tower forever, that she hasn't interacted with anybody else. So when
Okay.
she interacts with somebody who lives in the kingdom, and immediate release, cuts him loose, gives him bread, they have this moment. Then that's what I have to, and then the mirror is like, oh, like no, you're a garbage human. That one's all right.
Yeah,
And
I think
then-
it starts off as the fairest is the beauty, but then you realize like the inner beauty takes
And
over.
then someone teaches the mirror about synonyms. And
Yeah.
and he's like,
Does that mirror look like the one at Disney? It's the same face, right?
it's
it's always
Yeah,
been
it's
that
the-
face, yeah.
yeah, it was very
Yeah, it's like a
faithful.
mask.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
but it also
so-
looks like the mirror in Shrek.
Well, because it's
Well,
making
it's
fun
a
of it.
fairy tale.
Well, I know, but I
Yeah.
just didn't. I was like, that's funny that now we're getting a Snow White remake that it looks like the mirror from Shrek.
Well, because
Well,
Shrek
yeah,
was a
but
riff
Shrek
on
is
the
like-
mirror
right,
from
I
the
get it.
cartoon.
Yeah.
So like,
So-
yeah.
What I thought at the end was, I thought that the evil queen was going to have to be the mirror now.
Oh, that's
Oh, that
wild.
would
Because-
be torture.
because in the original movie it's the slave in the mirror, like a genie.
Yeah.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, the original story is it's the characters like the slave. She says it. I think she says, right, Tom? You just watched. Doesn't she say slave in the magic
I had
mirror?
it going on a second monitor while I was working.
Okay,
It
okay.
wasn't like
So-
dialed in.
So I thought she was going to be trapped in the mirror like the genie, to where now she's
She's Jafar.
Yeah, but then
Well,
she would just be
right.
totally telling Snow White some bull. She'd just be like,
Well, yeah, and then I would say you
"Those
need to break that
dwarves
mirror
make your
and
ass look
throw it
fat."
away.
Like it's,
Yeah,
you know,
but like a lifetime of like for her having to be trapped and just look at everything from the I don't know.
Wait
But-
a minute. Didn't we get a Snow White remake?
oh,
What was the one with
yes.
Chris Hemsworth?
Well, that's Snow White and the Huntsman.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
Okay. Who was
Yeah.
Snow White in that movie?
Kristen Stewart
And Charlize Theron?
is the queen. Yeah,
Okay.
the evil queen.
Okay. That's wild.
Mhm.
There's
Visually-
two of those
visually-
movies.
Yeah, visually pretty cool looking movies. Not the best movies, but
Bad.
yeah.
But yeah, I think there really isn't much to go over because it is kind of the bones of the DNA of this movie is Snow White, so we all
Yeah.
know the story.
Yep.
I just the thing for me is I thought this was good. It did not. The fact that the internet has probably tanked this movie. I don't know that it's going to recover from all of the press behind it. But the thing I took away from
But
this,
low expectations too. Think about it. If people are saying this movie's so bad, and then people do go to see it, and they're like, "No, it's fine. Like it's fine.
Yeah,
it's
maybe, but-
entertaining. It's
the thing that my takeaway from this is while the ending credits were going on, there were the theater that I was in was a fairly large amount of families. There were girls dressed like Snow White dancing like in the aisles at the end credits.
yeah."
That to me is what this movie is about.
Yep.
Like that's who this movie is
Yeah,
geared
that-
towards. That's who
Yes.
this movie was targeting.
It's a
and
kids movie.
it succeeded.
Yes, it does. This movie is fine. I mean, I would even say it is not bad
No,
by
it's
any
not
means. This
bad.
movie is not bad. Is it the best ever? No. Is it perfectly fine? Yes.
Yeah.
I would never call this bad. In the way the people that will never see it and have never seen it are just like tearing it apart and making fun of it. First of all, again, you're grown men.
Yeah, right,
Like
right.
you're grown and you're men. That's the demographic.
And they're
that's
people that
going
are
off
never
on
going to
it.
see it. They're just
Right.
Yeah, are you telling me
saying
Kevin
shit.
Sorbo went to go see this movie? Shut the fuck up.
Yeah, so it's like
Hey,
this is
Kevin
a
Sorbo,
kids-
if you love Jesus so much, maybe stop playing Greek gods. How about that?
Yeah.
He's a
Yeah.
demigod,
Fucking
but all right, we'll take
hypocrite.
it. Yeah,
Makes
you
me
know Kevin
disappointed.
Kevin when they do the live action Hercules, he's like, I was Hercules, right?
Disappointed.
Like, that was me. Like I was in that show, and they're like, we saw what you said about Snow White. No,
But I think also back to Kevin's point, this keeps this property alive and relevant in a way that it wouldn't have been. I mean, I know you have the dwarves mine train at Disney,
and she's in the park.
and she's in the park,
which is why
she's all-
I think they made that mine scene look like a ride. It's
absolutely, it's
100%.
totally
homage to the
it's
ride.
totally
yeah.
modeled on that ride, and
Yeah.
to keep that ride relevant. But like
Synergy, right?
yeah, but yeah, like most 7-8-year-olds aren't sitting down to watch a 90-year-old cartoon. It's just
No.
not going to be a thing. So this is no different than honestly, I view this through the same prism as I view Mickey Mouse Clubhouse. This is a way to
With a net
Mickey Mouse
with a net
Funhouse. Now you're
Funicello?
dating yourself.
Oh, is it
Tom.
Funhouse now? Sorry.
Yeah.
No, well, so the Clubhouse is what Ryan used to watch. Owen watches Mickey Mouse Funhouse,
Oh.
which they have cars and they race and drive around. It's just a more updated
Gotcha.
version of
but
that.
yeah, but it was created because like they did the House of Mouse, right? They were
Yeah.
like, we don't have anything with the Fab Five in it, and so like let's create something that will target kids and get them back into Mickey Mouse, Minnie Mouse.
Was Bugs Bunny just beating the shit out of him at that point?
I mean, I don't even think it was that. It was what was beating the shit out of him was Nickelodeon.
Oh,
Yeah.
totally.
Cartoon
Yeah,
Network,
Cartoon
Nickelodeon.
Network, right.
Kids were
So
watching different
they
stuff.
create
right?
House of Mouse and House of Mouse, like it does okay, but it's not doing what they want, right? Because by the House of Mouse is targeting like 8, 9, 10, 11-year-olds, but by the time a kid was 8, 9, 10, or 11, they had already decided that Mickey Mouse was for little kids. And they
Right.
were like, we're breeding a generation that won't have any nostalgia for our core characters. And we got to fix that. And so instead what they did was they went down in the age demo and created Mickey Mouse Clubhouse. And they were like, let's build a whole show around Mickey Mouse Clubhouse, and we'll make it like Blue's Clues.
Yeah.
Because that's what and Dora the Explorer, like that's what's resonating with like the little kids. And we'll get them there, and then we'll graduate them to the other stuff. And then when they're 35, they'll still care about this stuff.
Right.
And so, that's why I think something like this is important, even if it doesn't necessarily resonate for a bunch of middle-aged dudes. That's okay. It's bringing in a new generation because you're going to have a lot easier time getting a 7-year-old to watch this movie than you will
A
to
million
watch
times,
the
yes.
cartoon version.
A million times,
Because
yes.
they're going to
Yeah.
get so bored with that cartoon version, especially like the vocal stylings in those songs, the way they sing those, that like really weird trilly thing that they did.
Yeah, it's the 30s.
Yeah.
It's so different.
And then the men sing like crooners. They're like, or like not crooners. They're more like almost like opera adjacent. They're like,
I was gonna say like vaudeville.
How's that sound, Tom?
you got it once and you can loop it. And so even if you like those songs, they sound really weird. But like at the same time, that's what pop music sounded like in 1937, right? And so, you need a new version of this.
Do you think so? Going forward, obviously we know we have Lilo and Stitch this fall, this winter.
No, in like 4
July.
weeks. I think
Oh,
it's
is
like
it?
Oh,
I think
it's
it's
a month away.
Memorial Day weekend. I think.
So we know we've got
that animation looks really good blended in with
Stitch
live action.
looks
Now
great.
that they only had to animate one Stitch, so to their credit, and they didn't have to rush 7 of them. But like that, from the little clips I've seen, he blends in perfectly with live action.
which I think
That's
I
great.
think the advantage of that is
He's not human.
he's not
He's
human.
an alien.
He's an alien. He's not.
Right.
There's no. You can't go look at another version of Stitch in the real world and be like, well, he doesn't move like that.
Very true.
Yeah.
That's
very
you know.
true.
But do they go? Okay. Do we get an announcement at the next convention, a D23 or whatever? Now we're getting Sleeping Beauty. Now we're gonna get are they gonna start working their way up from Snow White?
Well, I mean,
I could see that eventually.
they've already done some of that. They haven't done Sleeping Beauty,
Yeah,
but
they've been going-
they did Pinocchio. They did Dumbo.
Oh man, that's the Tom Hanks one, right?
Yeah, it went straight
That
to
was
Disney.
straight to
I've still
Disney.
never seen
They
that.
did-
I've still never
They
seen
did
that.
Lady and the Tramp. I
that
said
was bad.
I said when
They
they
bounced all over.
when
Yeah,
they
it's-
embarked on this, I'm like, they are strip mining their past, and what do you do when you're done? And
That's. I mean,
yeah. So,
Hand-drawn animated remakes of the live
honestly,
action
the
remakes.
thing that is kind of wild to me is that they haven't started to look at the Marvel stuff and be like, what can we do in animation form? What and DC is doing it. Like DC's like,
Yeah.
we've got.
but it's all
Creature Com-
straight to video stuff that only the
No,
nerds pay
like the
attention to.
Creature Commandos, like everything that's
like
now
that
under the
stuff.
James Gunn banner.
Yeah, we'll see how that does.
Yeah, that's true. That's
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
But
But the DC has a lot of those movies to where
Oh, yeah.
Marvel tends to do like the TV shows. They've done a lot of Marvel like kids cartoon TV show type
Yeah,
series.
there's the one with the 3 spider with the Miles, Peter, and Gwen. Like it's like
there's a
kid's
ton
cartoon.
of like Iron Man little cartoons and all that stuff. But this movie's tracking to do 50 million domestic, 50 million overseas. So I mean, not a huge start to
but
it. Not what they had hoped for.
considering how much Disney backed away from promoting this movie,
Yeah. Yep,
I
yep.
think
Yeah.
that number's pretty impressive.
Yeah, I mean, it's
We're saying
yeah,
100
it's still
million worldwide for the weekend.
100 opening. Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
like
zero
considering
promotion for this
they
movie.
completely pumped the brakes on promoting this film. So the fact that it
Yeah.
still did, $45 to $50 million opening weekend domestic, I think says a lot about the strength of the brand.
But the budget's 240 to 270 million.
I think it's higher because they've had to do a bunch. It's kind of like Captain America, where they had to go back in and reshoot and take stuff out. And
Well, I think that's why it could be as high as 270. I think. I mean, that's pretty high budget. So think about it. They've got to make $600 million to break even.
That's a lot.
And it opened to 100. And I don't think this is going to have that long of legs.
Yeah.
So.
It's going to get swallowed up by the
They
summer
probably
and the
don't
spring.
have to make 600 because normally you double the marketing, but they slash the marketing. So like
true.
That's a good point.
That's
maybe
true.
they have to make like 450, but
Yeah,
they're still not going to hit it. But I think from a brand standpoint, I think maybe there's some intangibles that they will benefit from this existing, that maybe won't necessarily reflect instantly on this film's
for
bottom
sure.
line. So
I did want
I agree.
to touch
They're-
on the one thing that I noted. I forgot that Disney would do at the Draft House. They were showing, like the re-release, in 1987, the re-release or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
That is something that I think Disney that was their bread and butter for a long time,
and
and it's no longer a thing.
and this is their version of that.
Yes,
Yeah,
that's exactly what I was saying.
Because
Home video killed the theatrical re-releases, and then that's why they put the videos in the vault to make sure that when it
Correct.
came out,
well, even if you pulled, let's say they pull Snow White and put it in the vault, then you can throw it back in theaters because like there's nowhere else to watch it,
yeah,
and you can't do that anymore.
yeah.
That's a dead model.
Absolutely. So, well, anyway, I guess that's it for this one. Let's go around the table and everyone can say where to find them.
This is Joe. You can follow me on the Twitter and Blue Sky and Threads and Letterboxd at Joey Butts, BUTTS 21.
This is Kevin. Follow me on Twitter at Kevin R. Brackett.
And Brad, where can they find you?
You can find me. I actually have a Disney-related podcast for a card game called Disney Lorcana. We are at Rules of Villainy. It's all a bunch of local guys I met playing the game. I do have a single card here to show for the video listeners of the Snow White that I got signed in Epcot. Joey mentioned that she is in the park, but I've been trying to get Kevin to play it for a long time, but he just hasn't had the time to do it. But it's a really cool card game. If anything, collect the cards. The art in the game is beautiful. But it's at Rules of Villainy on all the socials and video podcast on YouTube, like you guys.
Awesome.
Yeah, I will say the art is really cool. I do collect the art. I just haven't really played the game, but they keep coming out with new series and new characters, and it is some of the coolest artwork out there.
Awesome. And this is Tom. You can find me on Blue Sky and Threads at Tom O'Keefe Jr. on Facebook at facebook.com/Tom O'Keefe. You can find the show online at facebook.com/Real Spoilers. While you're there, like the page, join the group. I forgot to mention in the open our Patreon, where for $5 a month, you get all sorts of bonus content, and we like you extra. And then, of course, don't forget you can watch all of these over at YouTube. So that's it for this one. Thanks for tuning in. And until next time, Nazi maps are hidden in Annie's screenplay.
Get ready for a spoiler. Won't say it twice, 'cause we